Hello, and welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast on the internet with the science and the screaming to determine what is the single greatest movie of any given year. The year in question, 1982. The movies in question, so far, we have done Blade Runner to great critical acclaim. We've done 48 Hours to slightly lesser. We're going to take a little break because I am on vacation, and I brought my good friends, Mike and Greg, with me.
I have a pina colada.
I brought you guys on this submarine that is
Ooh,
thousands of meters underwater just to, I'm tired of the old, let's sit on the beach and vacay kind of thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's do something for once.
Okay, I'm going stir crazy right away.
We have been here for 6 minutes.
Yeah.
When I think of
I'm
do
also
something,
going to
I think of
resort to cannibalism.
being. I'm going to do auto cannibalism. Eat my own fingies.
Just going to automatically do it?
Yep. In my
What
sleep.
part are you going to start with?
Fingies.
The fucking dick? Oh. What about the constant boom, boom?
The sonar.
Oh,
that
that's
bother you?
relaxing.
You like that, right?
Where it feels
We
like
love
somebody's
that.
chucking tiny pebbles right at your metal ship forever.
What is that? A fire alarm that needs to have the battery reset? That's great. That's hypnotic.
Dude, I got at practice and I have to do it alone is grabbing the little circle door and jumping your legs first through it because I know the first dozen times I'm losing some teeth and nose.
Some nose. I'm losing a little bit of nose on that one.
Yeah, okay. So I think so many people, when they think about vacations, they think about waterfalls, little streams, little bits of water.
Mm-hmm.
This,
Yeah,
I think, is
tiny
the
water.
amount of water that a vacation should have.
A whole ocean all around us, above us, all around us, trying to get into the ship, trying as hard as it can to push its way into the ship here with us.
Wanting nothing more than to just be in the ship with us also on vacation.
And to just drag us down into Poseidon's briny grasp and just to hold us there until
briny.
we are no more.
Get some olives. You just
Have
swim
you
in
guys
a
taken a
martini.
bolt yet?
Taking a boat. I
It's-
mean, as a souvenir? I'm taking this with me on the road.
No. Because I told the captain we want to go as deep as possible. So, and then sometimes you'll just be brushing your teeth, and a bolt will fly out of the wall and hit you right in the mouth.
And that captain's one of these captains that just kind of goes like, and you're not sure what he's really
Yeah.
saying. So.
I asked him to take us 3 knuckles deep, and he walked away from me.
He told us to say to him, I captain, but he's wearing a pirate patch, so I'm just saying I captain, right?
You've been polite.
Anytime he walks in, I'm just standing on my desk going, "Oh, captain, my captain," because man, he is such a good teacher.
And by
more than anything
standing,
else.
you mean half squatting because your head would go right through that roof, right?
Oh yeah, dude, I'm too big a dude to be inside one of these World War II submarines.
Did
so
you
I'm
guys
glad
see
that's
Maverick
not
yet?
My job. I didn't.
With Mel Gibson?
I swear to God, no, this is Top Gun Maverick.
Oh, okay. Thank you. For
Easy
clarifying.
mistake to make. I swear to God, in a movie that came out in 2022, Maverick is the teacher of Top Gun now, and the first thing he says is, "Hey, you know these manuals? Put them in the trash."
No.
Oh,
How else will they
damn.
learn how to fly that fucking plane, man? You need the manual.
And then he's like, "Okay, actually, take him out of the trash
Yeah.
because there is some good stuff in there. We're gonna make amendments to it, but there's some good stuff.
I mean,
there.
I know more than in the manual, but you should start.
It's the manual.
I don't like to often talk about my time in the military, but we had a manual, and what they said is sleep less, read the manual more. Have that manual with you all the time. If you're pooping, you're reading the manual. So Maverick is not great. He's a bit
No,
of
that's-
a, there's a word for it.
Loose
Rogue.
bolt. I just had the craziest idea. If we're in a submarine
Yes.
and we have our own podcast about movies, and right now this podcast is about the films of 1982, what if, and stop me if you've heard this one, what if we recorded a podcast about the German film Das Boot, which was released in America in 1982 while in the submarine?
I guess we could. I mean, I have watched it 2 times in the last week, so
Just in preparation for this vacay?
yeah. Because you're like submarine vacay, and I was like, man, I gotta watch 1982's Das Boot.
I gotta have
Now,
stuff
Mike-
to talk about on vacation.
Yeah.
Mike, you did not watch it. Do you still want to do this?
Yeah, I love it. I bet I can riff.
It's a submarine movie.
Oh,
What happens?
I watched a documentary about those boots, so I'll have different facts to bring.
Did you watch Das Boots Were Made for Walking?
Yeah. And that's just
Classic
what they'll do.
documentary.
Christopher Walken.
Well, okay. So I guess when we come back, let's do a show about Das Boot. The Blade Runner of submarine movies, 1982's Das Boot, has had 1 billion versions and cuts, including one supervised by writer-director Wolfgang Peterson in 1997. Writer-director of this movie, important note.
Not just general writer-director.
The fools on this show watch the one that's 3.5 hours, which is on Tubi at the time of this recording. Based on the 1973 novel of the same name, Das Boot follows a German U-96 boat during the Battle of the Atlantic during World War II. Think about that. Germans during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
The most expensive film in German history at the time, the movie was a smash hit, and in America, get this shit, the subtitled version grossed more than the dubbed version.
Whoa.
Way to go, American.
We
Back
did
when
it, guys.
We had a
We-
country.
Man, they went in there and did some reading.
Das Boot was nominated for 6 Oscars, including 1 for director Wolfgang Peterson and 1 for screenwriter Wolfgang Peterson. Taste buds, I ask you this. Did the three of us get all of the sub puns out of our system in our text thread throughout the last week, or are we going to have to do them on this show?
Are there still some under the surface, maybe?
We're going to have to
Ryan?
dive deep to get a few more.
Holy shit.
Underwater boat.
I was so ready for that. Taste buds, ask you this. What was it like for you as an audience member to watch a boat full of Nazis?
So strange to when there's a bunch of times you think they might die, but the end when they are all getting hit by Usain Bolts and they are off the
Yeah.
dial and they're on the bottom of the sea and everybody's like sleeping with oxygen masks.
Yeah.
And then they survive. I went through it. I was
You're
like, I'm so
happy.
happy this
The
tub full of
Nazis did
Nazis
it.
lived.
Woo!
When you say scuba masks, you mean the ones straight up from Dune, right?
Yeah.
Like pinching your nose.
They
giving
were
you spice.
fremenning it up while they were sleeping. The captain was shoving things back down people's throats so they could breathe better, which is a
Breathe better.
weird way to fucking wake up.
I feel like you constantly forget that they're dirty Nazis throughout the movie. And then, like, there's the part where they go up onto, like, the merchant vessel.
Uh-huh.
And the guys, like, throw them the Sig Heil. And you're like, oh, yeah, fuck these fucks. You're fucking Nazis. I hope you all fucking die. But then you see it about to happen, and you're like, oh.
No, but I don't want them to die.
But I love them.
I think that there's a few things. One is the captain made the same face I made when they Sig Heiled him, is go, don't do that.
Yeah.
I will point out, we should talk about that. The captain starts the movie in a little bit of Don Draper theory of let's get everybody on this guy's side right in the very first scene of being like, fucking Nazis are stupid.
You know who I don't like? Hitler. Yeah, I kill for him, but I kind of think he's a wanker.
It's a
in the
living.
first, there's a big Nazi party in the beginning. Not the one you're thinking of. Like, everybody's drinking and stuff.
Like
and a guy gets up on stage and says, these fucking Nazis are stupid and Hitler's a moron. And the crowd, like, encroaches. Like, oh, we're gonna murder this
What?
guy. And the captain's like, he's got some good points.
That's
We're
Captain
only in
Phillips.
France because of that guy.
Captain Phillips, who is the captain, who's not the captain now. I thought he was our main character. I was like, I love this guy. And what we get is a
Yeah.
guy who's just a little more sober take on that same, like, it does feel like in general the sub, and who knows if this is true, but the U-men seem to be in general like, I hate the fucking war. I hate the fucking Nazis. Let's all climb into this death trap. And I guess this is what we do.
Yeah, and they're like trying to sink civilian vessels. So it's like these are bad guys trying to do bad things. And I think in a way the point is that it kind of humanizes them. And then at the end of the day it's like, you know what? They are not themselves hardcore Nazis, but if it weren't for people like them, the Nazis wouldn't be anywhere. They wouldn't have gotten anywhere. It was the fact that they were willing to do whatever it took to enforce something that they obviously did not believe in, that they rolled their eyes every time it came up, and then they were like, but you know what we should do? Let's go kill some people on behalf of these lunatics.
They hate the one guy who still shaves under the boat. None of them do. In one of the first scenes, they're excited about not shaving and getting beards. And that's, in general, if you're post-Revolutionary War, no military is into beards. But the sub guys cannot wait to wear little coconut bras and grow beards. But there's one guy who is super Hitler Youth, and I think one of them calls him Hitler Youth at one point, and he's an officer, and nobody gives him respect because he is too Nazi. They're like, we're all in this party, man, but you fucking get out of Hitler's ass, please.
At one point in the officers' dining room, which is a
part of the hallway.
about as big as like
it's like a wood paneled part of the hallway.
It's like, imagine if you and your 5 best friends were sitting on a desk in elementary school.
Yeah.
That's what this is like.
And if you're a high ranking officer, you're on the part that you don't have to get up for people to walk through. If you're a lower ranking officer, you have to constantly get up because you're in a hallway.
Everybody's looking at him because this motherfucker is like properly using a fork and knife to eat his goddamn food.
Yeah, to eat his weird underwater food.
Yeah.
This was the dude that was like he was home free. He was in Mexico.
Yeah.
He was on his, quote, step-parents' plantation. What does that mean, step-parents?
Yeah, 2 step-parents.
A step-parent.
Wait, hold on. So your mom and dad got divorced, married 2 people, and then those 2 people fell in love and
Sort
became
of-
your step-parents.
Pornhub family.
He chose them. He got stuck in a well in the plantation.
So he was on his step-parents' plantation in Mexico, and he's like, you know what? I got to go back. I got to be part of this.
Yes, you do, my friend.
And he was the one who kept like reading like the Nazi manual
Yeah.
all the time.
And they're like, fucking throw that out the window. The sub window.
I can't. It's the sub.
Do you think he realized he was about 10 years early because it was 10 years later that all the Nazis would run to Central and South America?
Yeah,
and
is
he's
he
like,
on his
guys,
way
I
to
thought we
Brazil?
were meeting here.
Is he going to set up like the big camp and casino in Brazil?
The
So-
rat lines.
I think a major point that Greg brought up is the middle part, where they get off the boat, which is so crazy to see them on land, or not even land.
They're on a different boat.
They're on a surface.
Yeah,
boat.
I
The
saw
guy that
these
just
fancy
stays above the water.
So to them, they're in like heaven, and
Yeah.
there's all of these incredible foods like herring salad. You have to try this delicious herring salad.
Keep in mind they're German, so on top of being naturally evil, they like don't understand what good food is.
Hey, I put a ton of mayonnaise on this
got
dirty fish.
Pickled
Do
in
you
its
want
own
it?
cum and mayonnaise. Would you like to eat more? Plop, plop.
But before that, we get
Plop, plop.
we don't have Nazis in Nazi uniforms, and
Right.
that's something that I haven't seen before. Like they don't even rock the black band,
Mm-hmm.
and that does a lot. That gives you a lot of runway for accepting these people. Also, the fact that it's German made and about Nazis, like if this was any other country, we would have seen much less vile shit. And I have to give it up that they said, you know, we're going to make this movie is going to be about the bad guys of World War II who used to be us, but it's not going to be rah-rah. And maybe the only way you can do that to make it not super patriotic is to put Nazis at the heart of it, or Germans, or whatever you want to call them.
But it's not rah-rah, but it's also not like cartoons. Like these are human beings. Like I think if this was about a British U-boat, I don't think it would have stuck in my head all week. And it really did. And the scene where they
would have
finally
saying Tipperary unironically.
they finally
was
surface, and after they shot one of the boats, and they're like, "Oh, it's on fire." They're like, "People are still on there. We wanted to hurt some of them, but what the fuck? Why didn't anybody save them?" And then they look so bummed, and some of them are puking, and some of them are crying, and they're like, "I guess we can't save these people we tried to kill." And that scene is when I was like, "And this isn't in the bracket."
Yeah. Let's
you know what?
let's dissect that scene a little bit later. But ultimately, like, can you imagine if this movie was American made?
It would suck. It'd be fucking Red Dawn with Nazis, like
Or Pearl Harbor?
Or they would have to be cartoonishly evil. I mean that especially the way like Germany handles depictions of Nazis, especially the way they did in the 1980s. Like they're more hardcore. Like you don't have the freedom of speech in Germany to like say pro-Nazi stuff. Like that is not your right. And so even just outward German patriotism was rare until like 2010, like with the World Cup. Like they have not felt good about themselves.
Man,
which
we need
is
that.
Yeah.
We need it so
Let's
bad.
export that
Honestly,
shit.
I mean, that's like, couldn't we use a little bit of
Yes.
that? Just like a little humility and just feeling a little bad about ourselves for a while.
There's this video of a Trump fan getting interviewed, and at the end, just saying awful stuff, and at the end, the reporter, who's like a notorious Trump fan troll, asked, "Yeah, but you think slavery is wrong, right?" No comment. Well, I'm gonna give you one more chance, and just kept giving him chances
No
to just
comment.
just say that slavery is wrong. No comment.
But
so
there's a certain sect of people who cannot say anything that's ever been done in this history of this country is wrong, because then I hate this country and I want it to not exist, and then like it's fucking baffling. I have an unfortunate extended family member by marriage who is pro Columbus because Columbus discovered America, therefore nothing Columbus ever did was wrong.
so
This person is just allowed to be in the world.
every night he goes to bed reading his 1982 elementary school history text and just takes in every word.
Good job, Christopher. You did it. You found America, and we all followed you to the promised land.
All right. Well, that's what it's like to watch a movie about Nazis as heroes, I guess. Let's take a break. And when we come back, let's talk about the other issues besides war. Hey, guys, thank you so much for listening so far. And let me just tell you that everything ahead of this commercial is much better than what came before it. That's my guarantee. While I have you here, let me tell you about a website. It's called yourpopfilter.com, and it's everything you need that's related to Pop Filter. Everything Mike, everything Ryan, everything Greg, everything Cassie, everything is there at yourpopfilter.com. While you're there, go to yourpopfilter.com/Amazon. Make that your new Amazon bookmark and do your shopping from there. That way, we get a little piece of the action, and Amazon doesn't. Make sure you're also listening to everything that Pop Filter has to offer, which includes the Superhero Show, a podcast that covers every single TV show that's based on a comic book or comic book property, and Movie of the Year, where we sit down and try and figure out what is the single greatest movie of any given year. That's Superhero Show, that's Movie of the Year, and that's yourpopfilter.com. Rate, subscribe, review, bye! Reviewing this movie in 1985, Chicago film critic Dave Kerr said that the film has no qualities beyond its formal polish, and its careful avoidance, or rather displacement, of the moral and political issues involved can seem too crafty, too convenient. Now, I think that I don't think any of us are going to argue that this film is formally bullshit, right? Like, this is one of the most crazy-looking, feeling movies we've ever seen.
Yeah.
They were inside a submarine.
Long.
And they filmed inside. This was not like, let's pull this wall back. Like, they shot it in a fucking submarine.
No, it was claustrophobic and cramped.
And a lot of those shots where you feel the intent of the shot without noticing the shot itself, which I always like.
But how easy is it for us to tell Dave Kerr from 1985 to shut the fuck up? Like, does this movie have other stuff to offer besides, holy shit, they filmed what it's like to be in a submarine?
I think Dave Kerr is a bit of a cur, which is an old insult.
Holy moly, you're going to have to duel this dude.
I'll slap him across the face. To watch this and just be like, formal but nothing else is, I think,
what about the
not
really
just that,
good acting?
Yeah, the acting is phenomenal. The fact that, like, you go back and forth on so many of the main characters. I'd say there's probably two main-ish characters.
The submarine itself and the sea.
Submarine and the ocean.
And New York City.
Which one do you want to win? I think you grow and evolve and change, and I think humanizing Nazis, but also if this was an American sub or a British sub, dehumanizing people who are supposed to look at heroes. No matter where you stand, if you watch this and if you can, take this out of any sort of war context, watching the things they do and go through is one of the most interesting war movies we've ever watched. I mean, we did watch Come and See. But other than that one, Americans don't know how to make fucking war movies.
It's so unfair to this movie that we've seen Come and See. Like, otherwise, this
real bummer.
There are similarities, but I have to say, like, this movie is overtly political, and part of what it's about is here are guys who probably think of themselves as not political, and yet they are literally part of this war machine, and they're what makes it work. And if it wasn't for their mindset, and if it wasn't for how hard they work, none of this would be possible. And we can feel like their lost humanity in all of that. And we can feel like they are still our enemies and the enemies of decent people. And like, so I think it's about this really extremely complex emotional landscape, and not to fall back on like cliches, but also just the like brutality and terribleness of war, no matter who it is directed at. And no matter who is the one directing it.
My issue with what Dave Kerr said is that the movie was missing some sort of speechifying or monologuing from a character or a president or a chancellor or somebody, and that's the exact fucking thing you would have bitched about in your review if that happened.
Yeah, you would have been like, that's way too heavy-handed. Let me interpret the movie. Don't have a character tell me how to interpret the movie.
What a fucking moron. There's so many great lines.
What a fucking dipshit, dude.
The captain at some point looks around, he says, all you need is good people. Like, that is important and political. The redhead lieutenant who actually works his way in and everybody starts liking, who's there as like the photog, but then they're like, I guess you're one of us now. Him saying, it's big love. What you got to go for is big love. Like him being like, here, we're bonding now. It's emotional. I'm going to take things to your friends. There's so many emotional and human and political things woven throughout, but it's never Mel Gibson. You'll never take our freedom. Fuck Dave Kerr.
I mean, Mel Gibson writes movies for the trailer, right? I want to have voiceover for the trailer. I don't care what else happens in the movie, at least with Braveheart. Whereas this, like, I find the captain absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
Very handsome compared to the rest of the cast. But also, I think that he is competent but not perfect. He's beloved.
I think he's a bad captain, dude.
If he didn't have the chief, I don't know if he could.
Okay. But the little things in the beginning, like, don't take pictures. To the photog, he said, don't take pictures yet they don't have their beards.
Yeah.
He knows
Right.
that's going to make a better story. Like, where are your concerns here? And then later on, while the ship is, everyone's about to die. Like, it's very clear everyone's about to die. And he comes down the ladder during an alarm, and he's like, everybody take good records. Make sure you take very good records about what's going on. This is the kind of guy he is, which is very reminiscent to me of Alec Guinness and Bridge Over River Kwai, of just like, even though I've been tasked to do this as a prisoner, I'm still going to do the best fucking job of all time. Like, sort of losing focus of what's going on. In the meantime, away from his men, he's realizing that it's like his mission is essentially go out there, and if you survive, cool. You probably won't. If you do some good for the war, cool. We don't
if
give
you
a
survive,
fuck.
we'll throw you back out there.
Right.
Again.
And if you ask for 2 people to survive, we will spit in your face and say, no, no,
How
no.
dare
Read this
you.
alone, and we will say no.
What are
The
you,
reason-
Dave Kerr? You dipshit.
The reason I think he's a bad captain, right, is not just to be contrarian, is because he is the most eye-rollingest of all the people about the Fuhrer and about the Hitler Youth and everything. But when as soon as he sights the enemy, it doesn't matter if it's
gets so
bad
pumped.
weather conditions. He throws his ship in there, and he puts his ship in danger, and he almost loses it. And he does that 3 different times where he is overly aggressive.
I mean, the first maneuver we see of his is go way too deep to make the new people sick. Just to show
Right.
how fucking crazy a submarine is.
And then there's the destroyer that he's like, the redheaded guy's like, nobody would ever attack in weather like this. And you can see why, because you can't see the fucking ship with the periscope. And then the destroyers, which are really fast, zig and zag and get around you and start flanking you. That was bad news for them.
And is it the chief or the navigator later who's just like, wait, his plan was to go as fast as we could through this strait?
Yeah.
He knew we were all going to die. Like,
See, I think
and that's
Oh, go, Mike.
I was gonna say, why he's fascinating is because he goes back and forth between a Tom Hanks type of military leader in his 18 military roles and an Ahab. He just vacillates, and that feels so much more real. He's a human being. He'd like to think of himself as a good leader. He cares about his men, but every once in a while he also lets the water get to him. But it's not freaking out, I want to just die. It's, what if I kill everybody in a blaze of glory?
Remember how when Johan is freaking out and they're like, get Johan the fuck out of here, because the captain comes back with a fucking gun. He was going to shoot that dude right in the brain, because that is ultimately how he responds to things. I will, because he's a fascist. He is not just like, I reject Nazism. He does in one way, but then when he comes to his own decision making, he's like, I will always use violence as a means to get what I want, and I will use it as directly as possible.
He's like, I reject Nazism. Fascism should be called capitalism. It'd be based on me.
The Fuhrer is a fucking artist asshole.
And
but-
imagine if he had shot Johan, because Johan is the one who is one of the ones that's like instrumental in making the U-boat work again.
Which I will say is probably the corniest, most Hollywood part of the movie.
Oh,
is
yeah, for
Johan's
sure.
redemption. Like, that guy was fucked out of his mind.
Dude, he was going to try to run up the thing. He was like, I'm going to get out of here.
He just
But I
swims to the
believe
surface.
that kind of panic happens.
Sure.
But what I liked is Johan was one of 4. It was the chief. The captain's number 2 did the
Yeah.
most. The captain's number 2 came back and was like, I fixed this, I fixed this, I fixed this. Everybody else has been asleep. Oh, I fixed this. I guess there's a couple other problems. Like, Johan helped,
Yeah.
but it would have been too dumb in Hollywood if it was Johan who like came back with Air Bud and saved the day.
Do you think what Dave Kerr is talking about at all relates to our first segment of just it's unfair to make audiences watch Nazis as main characters?
That's what I think he's... yeah. I mean, what he's responding to is this leaves you in such an emotionally like pretzeled form.
So
that
he's
it's
pissed
not-
at the movie world.
Yeah, that it's not comfortable. And you're not... I don't think you're supposed to ever be comfortable with this movie, ever. I don't think
No.
Germans were supposed to be. I don't think people were supposed to go out and be like, yeah, Germans. Like, the movie takes pains not to be that way. It makes everything seem kind of pointless, right? And so but I think he doesn't like that the movie, at moments you forget they're Nazis, you feel for them, and then you feel bad about that later. You want them to make that sub work. And when they do, you're so glad they get home. And when you see the planes in the sky, you're like, no, my buddies. You know, like, you're supposed to feel all that, and it's weird, and that's part of what you're supposed to experience.
I mean, doing some reading about did you guys, after you watched the 3.5 hour version, go and watch the 2.5 hour version just to compare?
No.
And then the 1.5?
There were several scenes, though, where I was like, you're not in the regular version. You're not totally necessary.
Yeah, doing some reading.
Was it Tiki Dance?
It was basically a clip show, like a Sports Center version of the 3.5-hour version, which was basically just the boom booms and the explosions. And that, I think, completely ruins the movie because that uncomfortability that Greg and probably Dave Kerr are talking about is absolutely necessary. You have to be as nauseous and as sweaty and as Johan as this crew is.
And there's so many versions of a character's bored, so I think you should be bored that I roll my eyes at and
Jarhead
think sucks. Yes, I was going to say Jar. Get out of my brain. But this one does it. And I also think I'm old enough, and I've told the listeners I'm getting into like detective novels. That's how I know I'm old. I was so bored throughout watching this movie and loved it every second.
Yeah.
And I went, I'm a middle-aged man. that is that 1-2 punch.
I am enjoying my boring World War II movie.
You're 6 years away from loving all those Tom Hanks Apple Plus movies.
Oh, no.
Like Greyhound?
Dude,
I couldn't name one. I was just trying to think.
Greyhound is the story of it's based on the book The Good Shepherd, and it is the story of a destroyer captain who is escorting, an American destroyer captain who is escorting a convoy across the Atlantic. And so it is the opposite of this movie, and it's very fascinating. It's cool in many of the same ways. It's a dad movie for sure, but I'm of a certain age myself, so.
Hold on, bud. The opposite of this movie, it's opposite of Sub would be Bus. What's the most famous bus
Speed.
line? It's Greyhound.
Oh, shit.
That's nuts. Shut down
Man.
the podcast.
You think you get Ryan's jokes, and he's playing 5-dimensional chess. You have fucking no idea.
What I just said made Mike go so crazy, he's trying to climb out of the sub. All right, let's fucking take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, a guy named Wolfgang.
Hola, Filterinos. I just wanted to interrupt real briefly and say thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. If you want to support us a little more directly, you can go to patreon.com/yourpopfilter. There, depending on what tier you pick, $1 a month, $5 a month. If you're crazy, anything more than $5 a month, don't do that. You can get extra content. There's extra shows, extra series, behind-the-scenes stuff. You could pay for Ryan to draw you a picture. I can write you a poem. You can get the shirts off our very own backs. All of that and so much more over at patreon.com/yourpopfilter. While you're on the internet, you should check out Shady Monk. He does all the tunes you've been listening to. He's on Bandcamp. He's on Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever kids get their music these days that I'm too old to know. Shady Monk lives there. You can probably follow him on Twitter and Instagram as well. That's Shady Monk. Wherever you get music, check him out.
Peterson turned Das Boot into a 20-year Hollywood career, including such movies as The Never-Ending Story, Outbreak, Air Force One, and The Perfect Storm. Taste buds, how many genres are we watching Peterson perfect and or upend in this movie? Show your work, and anybody who says that he perfected the subgenre will lose 40 points on next week's show.
Definitely underwater horror.
Yes.
I was so surprised at the very, not just tense moments, but scary moments. And the sound of that sonar, I don't know if you can really hear sonar like that, but that is so menacing. The idea that you can hear them, they could hear them looking for them so that they could drop depth charges on them. I thought that was so effectively done, and it suddenly put the movie in a new place, and it made you realize, this isn't just a war movie. The horror these characters are feeling is pure terror in that same way that you would experience in a horror movie.
You hear them hear you? No. Not okay. So horror, war movie probably.
Yeah.
With horror, though, real quick, Mike, I want to stick to it's so easy to make jump scares in horror with loud sounds. And to watch this movie so efficiently use silence as the scary part, that's what I think is the most impressive. There's one point where we're watching the guy with headphones on. I would say the original podcaster. And I think he's not just trying to hear if something happened, but also measure how far away it is based on the sound. And he does hear something, and we see his face. Everyone else can't see him.
Right.
And then we also see him go, fuck. He needs to tell his crew what he heard, and he can't do it. And I was shitting myself during that part.
And it's so messed up to learn that they have to whisper because the boats might hear them?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, because they have the boats have their version of that guy
Right.
who's listening, to the water. And honestly, like that's why when they go into silent running, they're literally silent and they try to be still because otherwise the sounds will pick up in the boats.
Plus, you don't want to talk loud and wake up every enemy of the mob. Those guys are sleeping with the fishes, and
That's true.
yeah,
Let them stay sleeping.
you want them to be asleep.
Also, it's like a workplace dramedy.
Mhm.
A lot of it is just like, man, all sorts of people are thrown together on this sub, and like, what happens when you do that?
Should there have been more confessionals?
Yes. Oh, I would love that. I would love to hear how everybody feels about the redhead smirker. To have to work next to somebody who nobody knows what they do, but all their job is to be redheaded and smirk and laugh at everybody else there. And you're like, what are your skills? What do you bring here?
The redheaded with the beard who's always smirking and insulting everyone and farting.
Yeah.
What it's like to work with him, Mike?
I couldn't imagine the fucking horror.
A gingy nightmare. But also, it's like it's like an allegory. It's like a political allegory, really. They literally are in a war machine, and they are kind of semi-dissenting voices who are an integral part of this war machine that carries out all the desires of the Nazi party. And I think that sort of like allegorical reading of it and pressure, I think works on a lot of those levels as well.
And works for literally any country that is up its own asshole, because the scene we talked about already where they go up to the merchant ship, the guy's like, we've made these in our own bakery. I mean, life is pretty hard out here, don't get me wrong. Like, it is the same thing for like, I'm gonna clap on Veterans Day when they come back, but I will fucking, don't look me in the eye, you homeless veteran, when I'm at the getting off the freeway.
That part where the guy who, like, anyone who's like the captain of a ship is probably kind of like a military fetishist as well, and probably thinks to themselves like, I'm basically kind of in the military because I'm like a captain. The like, share with me the stories of your frontline experiences, that turns my fucking stomach so hard. And
it's gladiator-ness.
What'd you say?
It's like having gladiators.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, I'm gonna sit in my throne and I'm gonna watch you guys kill yourself.
And there's a type of guy who does it to like every fucking vet that he runs into, who thinks that he's like that he really gets it, and that he's like of the same,
because he owns 3 AKs.
Yeah. And so that's sort of like adventurism when talking to vets. Like, he can see these guys, obviously they look horrified, like they all
they come up so fucked up. None of them even look that happy, except for the redheaded smirker, that there's bakery stuff there.
Yeah,
they're just like, what do we do here?
I think that they are much like us, like the whole clash of classes is hitting them. They're like, even if they could be in this room before they left and it would be fine, they wouldn't notice anything, but they walk in there and they're like, fuck this. They think that we're all a part of the same war.
Right.
And, if you're a soldier, you have to think that to a certain extent, we're all on the same side, but like, fuck this though.
Yeah. I read that scene as the captain had decided it's wrong of me to be up here and to eat any of this stuff. And then it's never said, but I just imagined, because he resists the food at first and then eventually like does give in and eats that fig and then gets a whole slop of herring. I don't know if he ever touches it or not.
Jesus Christ.
But like that, I felt very much like that was like, the being tarnished by that world of pretense, that he had said to himself, I'm not going to give in to that. And then yet it infects him, and it infects that world.
It's only real when you're greasy and covered in dirt and amongst the men.
Oh, and so sweaty.
Yeah, there's
so
one.
Sweaty,
I give it up to this one guy in the captain's, on the boat with all the food, where they're all posing for pictures and introducing each other. Half of them have bathed, half of them have not, and then one guy almost just barfs. He's like, I've been standing next to this person who smells like shit for 30 seconds, and I cannot take it anymore.
They talk about that there's a toilet. There's one toilet per 50 dudes.
We see it once.
What? But like, is there like a shower stall, or is there like a hose where you get sprayed, or is it just like you go up top and then the ocean water?
That's where you get
ocean spray, and we all know it's fine to get real salty and wet and just let that dry.
Yeah,
Nothing ever happens.
Yeah. Oh,
where
man.
do they get crabs?
They bring it on the ship because they're
one guy
they're
came in
boys.
with it.
Yeah,
okay.
And then it just takes off.
Was there an allusion to homosexuality?
Gayness, maybe?
When everybody's got crabs in their pubes, and then one guy has it in his eyebrows.
I wondered about that, and then because then someone's like, "Oh, it's really bad when it's in your eyebrows."
And it's the Hitler Youth, right? Who
Yeah,
They're
it's
all
them making fun of him. And yeah, it does seem like because the guy's just like, what's that in your eyebrow? It does feel just like a homophobic slur, maybe not necessarily. He really had eyebrow crabs.
I mean, like, because then it would seem like, hey, how'd you get those? Like, where was your head? Although I'm sure that all throughout the ship, it does just spread or whatever. But I wondered if they were going to make more of that. It felt like there was so much stuff the movie ultimately could only sort of hint at. Because it only had 4 hours.
But I think that's what leads it to like this workplace drama is that all of these tiny conversations and situations that we only get a little glimpse of because there's 50 of them, and we're moving around that shit pretty quickly. The last genre I want to talk to you guys about was action. This guy made The Perfect Storm, which that seems like a pretty good movie to give to him. Now he's on top of the water instead of underneath.
How to fuck with water.
One of the last big Hollywood movies he had was Troy. Not a ton of battle scenes per se, because it's all them in the ship with the battle going on around them that we can't see. I want to talk about the ending though, which was pretty actiony, and then also a weird sort of a little coda for the end. What did you guys think of his shooting of the movie and his of the ending and his inclusion of the ending?
I think what he gets about action is that it's better if you wait for it. Because you can become numb to constant explosions and gunfire, but
unless it's the Fast and Furious series.
Yes, unless it's that. They're the only ones who can pull it off. But they work with subs better than he does. But the very calmness to that works so well. We're like, now we're shaky cam. Normally I'd be like, shaky cam. But because it's been so still and quiet for an hour, when we get the 15 minutes of that, it's just like, oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. And then the end, I do think could be cheesier, but there's something about the way he handles it and the fact that it's turning into a normal Hollywood war movie of like, now we're following like two people and they're just running around and singing from their point of view. I don't know. It seemed to work.
And when I was watching it, I thought this is kind of over the top because like the photographer in the movie, that's the guy who would like go on to write the book that this is based on. And this did not happen in his story. But then I got thinking, ultimately, though, that is this story for Germany, right? Germany gets just bombed to absolute smithereens. Like the firebombing of Dresden, killing like 350,000 people or whatever it is. Like, so that does happen in the real world, even if it didn't happen in this story. And then that made me feel a little bit better about it, except to say that, like, don't you always feel that this doom hanging over this crew. And you think that they're going to die in the water, and for them to get out of it and then immediately get gunned down, on some level, I just thought this is like just a little too much. So I went back and forth, but ultimately, it is a little heavy-handed. It is a little, I don't know. It doesn't stick totally right with me.
I can see how it sort of turns it into like a weak-ass Twilight Zone episode, but also...
like irony, here comes.
That was the name of both planes that bombed the docks. But... also, like, I do think it harkens back to what we were talking about before of, like, oh, man, it sucks that these characters died. Oh, did it, audience? You're sad about the Nazis dying? Look at what we did with this war movie.
And, I think another thing the movie effectively does is for the fans of the Allies, the German subs are a very, like, scary idea. But the sub, like, is not a very scary weapon. It's actually not very strong, and it's not great at what it does. And so the idea that they were trying to sort of stem the tide and stand against something that was so much bigger than them, which ultimately that's what happened. Like there's that shot of all the bombers, and that like there must be like an effect or something because it's like a kaleidoscope. They fan out. Like that's what they brought on themselves. That's what they were trying to stop happening, was this arsenal of democracy that America would eventually put together and then just absolutely destroy Germany. That's what they did. And as much as they are a scary force, they also are bringing about their own doom and destruction. And so dramatizing that in the movie does feel appropriate on that level.
And I, for one, am glad that they did.
Yeah, we're as a podcast, Nazis, big thumbs down. You see a Nazi, you can punch them. If it looks
punch
like
them right in their fucking face.
If it looks like you can take them.
One last question before we get to some awards. This is just for Mike. Mike, were you surprised in our text feed throughout the week that was full of puns about submarines how Greg would just come correct the entire time with all these submarine facts?
Yes. He would just know facts about the submarines.
It's
And
so-
I was like, oh, he's at that age where now he's just memorizing machine facts.
It's just weird to be friends with people. They'll say something, and you're like, "That's not about pop culture." what are you
What
doing?
is this?
I've read a couple of books that are about submarines.
Yeah,
That's how
You're going to be building boats and bottles in no time.
The Progressive commercials tell me that means you're turning into your parents.
Well, you know what? I invite it because my parents are both really cool.
Nerd.
Let's take a break, and when we come back, this movie was nominated for 6 Oscars, but it won 0. How many Moody's will it win? All of them tonight. Oh, shit. I blew the surprise.
Well, that is very, very funny. Or very sad. And perhaps now you have something to think about. Or very problematic. And perhaps we have something to think about. But in any event, I'm sure you have some reaction to what you're listening to. So why not check us out on the social media? You can go to Instagram or Twitter and find us at YourPopFilter. Email contacts@YourPopFilter. Hey, everybody. Keep watching them movies.
We have some awards to hand out, just the normal ones that we give to every movie on the show. We are going to start with Greg and his cringiest moment. What is the cringiest moment of Das Boot?
Gotta be those crabs being everywhere, my man. Like, and I mean everywhere. Sailors all have their pants down. They're going through with a small comb. And it's just like, they're hitting it with this powder. But I don't know. Crabs are insidious. And once they're like entrenched in the boat, I don't think they're ever getting rid of those. So I'm definitely going with crabs. I know when you're underwater, you're going to be having to deal with crabs, Ryan. But I didn't think they'd be on my crotch.
Mike,
Okay?
when the doctor used a magnifying glass to look for the crabs, did you just think he was trying to find his penis like your doctor has to do
Where's
with you?
your dick?
Yes, it's true. This sailor has no dick. Mike, what's your cringiest moment?
My cringiest moment is there's like one sweetie, because all we know is that he writes letters to his fiance, and they steal his pictures and they're throwing them around, and they're like, "You fuck this ugly slut." And it's just like, ew. I know that this is the most accurate depiction of soldiers, but this is gross. I knew you were Nazis. I didn't know you were uncouth.
I didn't know you were a gentleman.
And that's just in more ways than one. A lot of semen touched that picture that night
Oh, gosh.
from jerking it.
Oh,
Oh, now I get it. I'm into it.
That is a good one, Mike, but we're going to have to give it up to the crabs who
Hey.
got so big they also stole the picture and ran away with it.
And then they did that crab rave dance.
Probably Wolfgang Petersen's only entry into the Movie of the Year challenge. As much as I love Air Force One and the Never-Ending Story, this is probably it. What do you think is his pure director's signature movement or moment in this movie, Mike?
He does it a few times, but I think it is the absolute silence with absolute chaos followed right after it. So it's
Like
anytime
a Nirvana
to just
song.
he is the Nirvana of directors, and I've always said that. Go back throughout the catalog, you can hear me saying that, and it just finally makes sense.
And you were into him early.
Yeah.
Right before he got
I was
popular.
when he was kind of metal. Before that kid from Scream joined the band.
That's a pretty good one, Greg. What do you got?
For me, it's the very first time he when they dive and he runs the camera from the very back of the ship all the way up to the front, because when a submarine dives, when it has to dive like really fast, it includes all the people who are not doing something on the sub at the moment running to the very front and just using their weight to help push the nose of it down. And that shot all the way up, there's like a part where a curtain gets thrown in front of the camera, a guy falls over right in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much like hand cam action stuff in this, but that one I think sets up a lot of what happens later when we see more chaos, when subsequent dives and subsequent problems with the ship.
It's so crazy that in 20 years they will send something very similar to that to the moon. But right now, they just have this fucking death trap in the water.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would ever get in that. Also good. Both great answers. But yeah, I think the Nirvana song of it all is really what makes this movie. And Greg, pound for pound performance, I would say that we have one barely lead and then about 49 to 65 supporting characters here. Who stole the show for you?
For me, it was definitely Jürgen Prochnow, the guy that played the captain. You see him be, incensed at command. You see him worry for his boys. You see him be scared for his ship. But then you also see him be like super aggressive, super violent. Sometimes he looks like he is sick. I think that you just see all the different complex emotions in this one guy, and he gets a ton of the camera time as well. And I think that he has both that humanity that the movie is talking about, but then also that edge into, no, this guy's a fucking Nazi. He even looks like a fucking Nazi. That keeps you from ever feeling comfortable, and I think he's leaning into that.
It's almost like Scheider and Shaw from Jaws in one character.
Yes.
Like Brody and...
Like they time copped into one goopy time cop thing.
You guys, we have to stop doing that. It just leads to goop. So captain for Greg. Mike, who's your PFP?
Yeah, if it's not the captain, I do think Herbert Grönemeyer, who plays the redheaded photographer. There's a lot of redhead
there's
representation in this
a
movie.
lot of ginger action going on.
But watching him grow and change, and it's not just because he arcs, but like I think he starts off close to Hitler Youth guy, and is quickly, and then he's that doofus who like laughs walking up to the circle before he even hears what they're joking about, and then by the end is one of them. And watching him grow and change, and just like he does a lot silently, like watching people go, oh, I want to lift that from the captain, but I like the chief. Maybe the chief is a better guy to grow from. Like watching him figure out what kind of man he wants to be if he lives through this. I think he crushes.
Yeah, I think the captain is such a good pick, but I'm going to give it to the photog because I always love doing more with less, and we do have to watch this guy sort of become that guy like we were talking about on deck with all the nice food. About how like I'm a soldier too, but I'm not. He's just faking it. The photog does that in a much more organic way, more believable way. So, Mike, you take that one. What is your recommendation if you like Das Boot?
Mine?
Yes. Should I go to Greg first?
No, I can do it because I'm going to get this out of the way now. If you liked Das Boot and you want a complicated war movie about one of America's enemies, you know we love it, or maybe you don't, you're a new listener, go check out Come and See.
See it once.
See it once and think about it every night as you fall asleep.
Come twice, see it once. What was that movie about? Can you give us a little info?
That is a kid gets sort of drafted, sort of joins a Russian war movement, and then he's like on the rebel side, and then goes through the countryside and just gets real shot at in real life because that director was bananas bullshit. And that one goes way more surreal in what is real and what isn't real. And Horrors of War by being an inch from this child's face for most of the movie.
Really upsetting this kid quite a lot and then filming it while he cried.
Upsetting the actor. Like,
the
actor aged 35 years on this set.
Yeah, they shot at this kid. I mean, they for real shot at this kid.
They said, hide behind this cow. We're going to shoot at it with blanks. And they went, what? And then just shot at it with real
blank
bullets.
what? I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Your word was bleeped. It sounded like you said blank. Greg, your recommendation?
If you want to see what's going on up top, then you should watch the movie for dads on Apple TV Plus, Greyhound, starring Tom Hanks. One of the suite of movies that Apple TV said, only we will have these movies. And America said, okay.
What?
But I have seen each of them. News of the World, the one where he makes a robot that's his friend, and this one.
Oh, shit.
And they're all good. They're all good. This is the best one, Greyhound. And it's about just trying to make that crossing and keep these fucking subs out of the convoy. And if you wanted to know why they didn't go back and save those people in the convoy, much to the shock of the Germans, they would tell you why in Greyhound. Because of double tap attacks. They would just go and fight the boats that would go back to save the guys. They would sink them too. So eventually they made a rule. They were like, if you get sunk, hasta la pasta.
Okay, but they didn't need to scream hasta la pasta at their burning comrades.
I think, honestly, it helps separate you emotionally.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, yes, I'm leaving you to drown, but also I'm saying something kind of fun, hasta la pasta.
Was the Tom Hanks and Robot Friend movie called Not Chappie?
A movie that's completely different from Chappie.
Are all movies really Chappie or not Chappie?
Yeah,
you
dude,
can
which
divide
are
them
you? Pinocchio. Oh, I'm Chappie. Okay, very good. How about you, Frankenstein? Yeah, I'm also a Chappie.
If you hear that conversation, you leave that party
Yeah,
immediately.
dude, I can't fucking get out of here. Speaking of Frankenstein, did you like the It's Alive vibes when they get the engine going again?
Yeah.
Just reminding us about the important contributions of Germans to cinema.
And and really just if you're on the job in a German movie, you are going insane. My recommendation is what used to be my favorite Wolfgang Petersen movie, but I think shares some of the qualities here, and that is In the Line of Fire. I think this is him dealing with stars, at least 1 star, 2 stars, Clint Eastwood and Rene Russo, but then John Malkovich was on his way. This sort of made him a star.
So would you give that movie 2.5 stars?
Yes. I'm the host of this particular episode, so I can't just react like Greg. But I wanted to so bad. I have to move the conversation forward. But I think with a lot of Hollywood, sort of schmaltz and gloss and glitter, still effectively tense in a lot of the patient ways that Das Boot is, instead of the we have to go a mile a minute like his later movies. I think his last Hollywood movie was Poseidon. This was sort of the last one of actually let's chill back and make a movie for adults. It doesn't have to be Russian, and that's why That's why that movie works. So In the Line of Fire, Greyhound, and Come and See. All available or not, and also Chappie. We'll recommend all 4 of those movies.
Greyhound is not Chappie.
Okay, just like not Chappie is not Chappie. When we come back, we're gonna see if this movie has any shot of winning Movie of the Year. It does not. Guys, I forgot to ask you, did you like this movie?
I really did like this movie. I think you're supposed to be uncomfortable in a number of ways, and I was. And it reminded me, war, hey, what is it good for? And I would argue absolutely nothing except for eradicating Nazis, which is important.
I would say this movie
say it
also.
again now.
I would say this movie
Nazis.
also argues that as well. That this is one of the few war sucks movies that I've seen where, honestly, this and Come and See are probably the 2 where even if you watch the first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan, the rest of it's like, yeah, but war's pretty sweet, right?
Look at these guys. They're pretty awesome. These are the only people who are really alive.
Mike, you talked about how you were bored for 3.5 hours and loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
So, is this highly ranked in your estimation?
This is one of the best movies we've ever watched for this podcast.
Oh, damn. Better than Mean Girls?
It is just under Mean Girls.
Both about different wars.
Yes.
And about, just be good to each other.
Mm-hmm.
All we need
be
is
good
good
to
people.
each other?
I think that I'll say that as much as I love this movie, as much as I was blown away by it, I was trying to allude to this before, but inarguably incredible filmmaking craft, whether you don't love the message or you think the message isn't, clear enough.
Or maybe you think Nazis shouldn't be heroes.
Any of those things, it's impeccably made. I'm not sure if it has a chance to win the year, if it were eligible.
It's very based in the 40s, so that tends to hurt these movies.
That is true. Where we want the 82 movie or the winner of any given year to be very much of that year.
Yeah. Duran never sang during this movie. No score at all, actually.
Well, the tone, the sonar tone.
But that sonar tone, I mean, that was doing a thing where you could do boop boop dome dome. And then is it gonna get Moody's at the end of the year? It's sort of hard to award that as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we liked it a lot, and it would have done okay in the bracket, but I'm not totally sure. I mean, action scene,
does it
violence
feel that
and shithead?
Oh yeah,
we're gonna see some violence and we're gonna see some shithead.
But honestly, which of these Nazis was a shithead?
Well, there were a lot of
Nazi
Nazis. No, I would definitely give it to Ginger Beard Fart Smirk.
No, I loved that
guy. I thought it was Mexico Step Parents Ranch guy.
That's
what I'm
saying.
saying.
Right?
That's Hitler
okay,
Youth.
yeah.
All right. Well,
Ginger Fart. I guess I'm just Stockholm
love
syndrome
Ginger
at this
Fart.
point. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that from both of you. And then I guess my last question is: do you guys think that this fills this void or this opening that we have every season of the Come and See, Brighter Summer Day?
Yeah.
I know Das Boot is, I think, a much more famous movie than those two, so it's not coming out of nowhere.
But people have heard it and then they think of The Hunt for Red October. I think half the
Or
people
Crimson
who
Tide.
say this movie have not fucking seen it.
Yeah, I think I was thinking of a different movie. Like, I don't know what I was thinking of, but I had
571,
a different image in there.
Greyhound.
Yeah, I guess it's one of the other sub movies. So, but I was definitely surprised by it, and I hope that I hope people give it a watch. It's definitely worth seeing. I don't know if I'm with you, Mike, where I think it's like one of the best movies we've done for the show, but it's certainly in like the top of the movies that we've done, and I would definitely see it. Even the 3.5 hour version.
It's a hard movie to recommend. Not one individual reason is hard, but like the rooting for Nazis things is not that big of a deal once you get into it. The length, it does go by quicker than you thought, but I swear to God, I spent more than 3.5 hours watching this 3.5 hour movie. And the boredom part, when they're bored, you're not as bored as you think you will be. So
right.
I definitely recommend it. I think we all do, but just a couple of things to think about before you dive in.
Oh, damn.
Oh, God damn it. And with that, keep watching those movies.